Welcome to Hell in a Cell, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be honest here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to make of this Hell in a Cell. I don't know how to really... What the hell? I don't know if that's a good what the hell or a bad what the hell. Because when it really comes down to it, if you look overall, this Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, it wasn't a good one. It was mediocre at best. In some part, I actually fell asleep. And I'll tell you which match I fell asleep on. You could probably guess which match I fell asleep. Some of it was okay, but it felt mediocre until the ending, which was, what the hell? I don't know what to feel about it. But let's get on to this review. Maybe I'll actually be able to get a good understanding while I'm trying to describe it to you. Now, the pre-show. I'm going to say this. Throughout the night, we saw the panel of Booker T to the Paul Heyman to the Alex Riley. This is what I want to say first. I really wish they would switch out Cole. Calm down. Michael Cole, JBL, and the King, Jerry Lawler, need to be switched out with the panel because I felt more interest and more excitement from the Booker T, from the Paul Heyman, and from the Alex Riley than those three jobbers who are behind commentary. I was bored most of the time throughout the night with them. Hell, during the first match of the night, Jerry the King Lawler couldn't even figure out who was he talking about. Come on. I wish they would switch out the panel with these guys. Let the guys who do the panel do commentary maybe once a month for Raw. I would get so much more mileage out of this show. Mileage out of the damn pay-per-views for that matter. I would love to see that, but you get my point. And when it came to Mark Henry and Bo Dallas Believe, in the end, Mark Henry destroyed that boy because that was his hometown. And I thought that was actually nice to see. Usually the hometown guy doesn't win. But here's the thing. Mark Henry's jobbed to Bo 4 times already. This time he didn't job. But what did we get for Bo? What did we get for Mark Henry? It just felt like it was thrown together in the beginning with no goal at the end, which made me very upset for both talents because they deserve something. Now, the second best match of the night for me personally was a 2 out of 3 fall match between Cesaro and Dolph Ziggler. I'm not a big Dolph Ziggler mark. I'm sorry, I'm not. I love me some Cesaro. And Dolph Ziggler's good, and I've always stated this. Let Dolph go into the main event as a main event jobber. Someone that can be in the main event who can beat mid-carders in his sleep. But in the main event, he's used to try and promote more feuds. Try to make sure people have something good to fight off of. I'm not saying he's the best one there. But at least he would give the guys who are in the main event something different to work with. At least once in a while. And let him win once in a while the championship title. Transitional champions have been through wrestling for a long time, and Dolph looks like he can fit the bill. Once in a while, maybe once every year or two, he can win. That wouldn't be bad. In the end, Dolph does a clean sweep of the 2 out of 3 fall match. Was it good to do that? I really don't know, because even though the crowd is going crazy for Dolph, there's no personality behind Dolph. And if they threw him into the main title scene now as he is, he's not going to last long because he has no personality. For me personally, if he's thrown in the main title scene as he is with no character development, I would get bored of him very quickly. Now, Usos versus the Dust Bros. I'm just calling them that for now because I don't know what else to call these guys. The Clash of the Clans is kind of interesting to hear this little bit. And I agree with the Sleg Daddy that the Usos are really overall very highly. I still love me some Uso. But we don't see them do much in the ring other than wrestle. The way you used to get people over was to let them have in-ring segments. And if it's rare on SmackDown, it's non-existent on Raw. So when it comes to this, the match was like the Usos versus the Wyatts. Good, well, solid match, but no substance. It felt like a Raw match. Sorry, it did. It just did. And the Dust Brothers, or the Dust Bros, won again. They kept their title, which wasn't bad, but still. Next, Bella versus Bella. Nikki versus Brie. And Nikki must have pumped her boobies up a little bigger than normal or wore a very, very tight top this time because her boobs looked like they wanted to explode. I'm sorry, they did. But what did I get from this match? A couple of things. One, I'll put it to you like this, ladies and gentlemen. If you push something and you want it to work so well, but it didn't, and you drop it, you should not drop it 100%. If you're going to make this make some sense for a future storyline, like what's going to happen with a Daniel Bryan eventually when it comes back, you would hope that they would do something with this. That they would promote it at least once on a Raw within 2 weeks. Let Stephanie announce it, that she's tired of these two being the way they are. She's saying, you know what, we need to get something done here. Bella versus Bella in Hell in a Cell. Whoever wins, you know what, become the attendant of the other. So finally, the one who deserves to get something gets it. If it was briefly talked about 1 minute on Raw, it would have made more sense here. As passing is bullshit. Commentation sucks. As I said it earlier, I would have liked to see the 3 who is on the panel talk more than the 3 who is on actual commentary. I'm sorry, I just feel that way. What was the match to me? 2 women mirroring each other, because let's be honest here, when it comes to the Bellas, they both have basically the same wrestling style. And that was boring. I'm not saying they can't wrestle. I'm just saying because they have literally the same wrestling style, the only difference is their finishers. Was not enough for me. Personally, I didn't care. Seeing Nikki win over Brie, they're going to keep this thing going on probably until TLC, or maybe longer than that, until Daniel Bryan comes back. That's what I think this is being done. I think that's the reason why this is being done at all. And after it's over, seeing Nikki all dressed up and Brie dressed in their regular clothes and the smoothie being poured on Brie's face and head, I didn't really care. The only thing that was mildly interesting in the entire thing was that when you look at Nikki's back of her dress near her ass, it kind of looked wet. What was she doing? Unless it was a shadow, the back of her dress looked like it had a stain on it. I'm wondering if John kind of... No, I'm not trying to insult anybody or be nasty, but you look at it for yourself. Unless it was a really big shadow on her ass, near her butt, it looked like a stain. So what would that give you? Someone was doing something interesting. I'm just saying. Moving on to AJ versus Paige, and this made no sense. Didn't really care. I'm going to say this. The way that they've been promoting Alicia Fox, it makes you wonder, is Alicia going to have a feud with Paige because they're done with Paige dealing with AJ? I think that's what's coming. Because at the end of the entire match, what happened? Paige loses, Alicia throws in the ring because basically Paige supposedly hit the back of her head on the retaining wall and then smacks the shit out of Alicia Fox like she's her bitch and said, I hate you. It just makes me think that there's going to be a feud between not AJ. You see, they're becoming interchangeable because they're all the same. All of them are crazy women. But I'm going to be honest here. Who is the best crazy out of all 3, AJ, Paige, and Alicia Fox? Is Alicia Fox. Alicia acts more crazy and a better form of crazy than Paige and AJ. So I would rather see Alicia Fox be the crazy one out of all 3 and let the other 2 drop the stupid crazy shit. I'm being honest here. The next thing, Rusev Maska versus the Big Show. You know what? I'll understand this entire thing if The Rock appears tonight. This is done on a Monday. If The Rock does not appear in the subsequent... If The Rock was a one-time, it was the most stupidest thing you could have done to promote this feud. Because I said last week that seeing that supposedly fake airman go there gave some interest to the people in Texas. It did. But it had to build up into something. I can understand them trying to end it with the big Show before going into The Rock. But if The Rock does not appear after this Monday night, if he doesn't appear on this Monday night, and he doesn't appear subsequently on any Mondays, that was the most stupidest thing they could have done with Rusev. Because right now, Rusev has another win. He beats the Big Show. Mark Henry doesn't help at all, which was fine. But if this does not lead to Rusev dealing with The Rock eventually, this made no fucking sense. I'm just saying. I'm glad to see Rusev get a win. Fine. But it has to make sense, ladies and gentlemen. You guys tell me below if this made perfect sense. And there's no Rock at the end of it, by the end of the year. I'm just saying. Now, one of the two things... No. I'm going to finish the one thing that I fell asleep on. John Cena versus Randy Orton in Hell in a Cell. I fell asleep. I have seen these guys face each other enough times that I fell asleep. I normally don't fall asleep during a match unless there was something going on, like I have a problem or something, but I was well rested. I had nothing to do today, so I can watch that completely in its entirety with no problems that night. And I fell asleep on the Randy Orton John Cena match. I literally fell asleep for 20 minutes. I was out. I reviewed it. I looked at the match again, but I didn't really care even then, because I've seen them do the exact same things over and over again. And I thought maybe they would do something with Seth Rollins shaking the ring or something, because they had been doing tension. They did that earlier that night. The tension of Randy Orton dealing with a Seth Rollins. Hey, forget about Seth Rollins. Deal with John Cena. Focus all your aggression from Seth Rollins to John Cena. And there was no Seth Rollins. Hearing he was going to do that, you would think Seth Rollins would come to the ring and shake the damn ring and say, hey, what's your problem? And John Cena would beat the shit out of him, and then he win, and then you would have your little feud. That didn't happen. We had a perfectly clean win for John Cena, which I'm going to be honest here. I wasn't interested in seeing John Cena go after Brock Lesnar, and I wasn't interested in seeing Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton, because the only way Randy Orton could be relevant is a heel. And if they want to turn him actually face, maybe they decide not to because Seth Rollins did not interfere in the match. It would have been boring. Because as a face, Randy Orton's terrible. As a heel, he's way better. And that means you have to turn Brock Lesnar face to face a heel. Heel to heel wouldn't have worked. So I didn't care who won because I didn't care about the match at all. So that's the reason why I fell asleep. Now, I'm going to do the two matches I like the most. First match is Damien Sandow versus, I'm actually saying The Miz, but Damien Sandow was the one who carried the show. But Miz versus a Sheamus. Damien Sandow carried the entire show. And it was an average match we really didn't care that much about until the ending of it. I've said this before. I never liked the parody of a Damien Sandow. I thought he could make a great heel. Maybe he could actually have a good face run. But in this case, where he's mimicking The Miz, it is so fucking awesome. It cracked the fucking ass out of me, man. I was laughing my ass off when you see him laying there on the floor, bringing up his arm, standing up doing YMCA with The Miz and Sheamus. Sheamus and The Miz became secondary compared to Damien Sandow. The crowd loved it. They said, we love you, Sandow. Flat out, they said it. They love Damien. They love Mizdow. So the question is going to be, how far are they going to push the Mizdow? How far is Damien Sandow is going to go with this? Maybe Damien Sandow may get a match on this Raw. You never know. And he will win the U.S. Championship. His first title ever in the WWE. I'm hoping he does, because then The Miz will actually have a feud with Damien. Because eventually it's going to be some type of tension. I'm hoping for that. But that's just my wish. You guys tell me if you want that. Finally, the match that we've been waiting for. That basically says, what the hell? I gotta breathe for this, because this really was, what the hell? Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. Now, with Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble in the very beginning and the middle of it was actually good. The beginning of the entire thing was really good. I did enjoy it, and it was the match of the night. It was. It's better than any other match. I mean, Dolph and basically Cesaro did a great match. I was alright with that. And I love The Miz and Sheamus because of Sandow. But if I'm looking at by the best type of match that got the most bang for its buck, this was it. Being on top of the Hell in a Cell was good. Being in the bottom of Hell in a Cell was good. Falling through both tables was alright. Getting inside after they were unstrapped from the gurneys, fighting in there was great. I did enjoy it very much. And I thought that if Seth Rollins was going to win, it would have to be something screwy. And I was right. But what the hell? Bray Wyatt, first you get the smoke with his lantern and a little girl or some guy standing around, and it was some good effect. I gotta admit that. That was a very good effect they did. Then you get a huge battering ram and a Bray Wyatt knocking over Dean Ambrose. Seth Rollins wins, he rolls out. And the one who gets the most strongest spotlight here is Bray Wyatt. Someone we haven't seen in almost 4 weeks on television. And the only thing he's done in the last 3 of those 4 weeks is do vignettes for Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. Almost no promos for himself. Only during the last week did we actually get a promo from him coming back. But nothing before then. And then you wonder, why would he do this? Because when it comes down to it, yes, the Shield dealt with the Wyatts a while ago, and it's understood, but they have done nothing. And the reason Bray Wyatt has done anything is because of Chris Jericho. Chris. And that feud that should have been great on paper was shit. So his build for over 3 months has been shit. For the last 3 weeks, we haven't seen him. The last week, we finally get vignettes from him. And then we get this. You go, what the fuck? Is this a great thing? Or is this totally stupid on the WWE's part? Because they have no other idea to do with a Bray Wyatt but to bring him back like this because they didn't want Seth Rollins to job yet. To a Dean Ambrose. So this is my thoughts on this. Do I believe the WWE did something that was surprising? Yes, they did. Having Bray Wyatt come out the way he did, with that effect of that person dancing around and that weird, probably backwards words meaning I'm coming, was probably a good idea. Having him destroy Dean Ambrose was a great idea. Now, Bray Wyatt is dealing with the most hottest person they have right now in a Dean Ambrose. But does this mean was it the most wisest thing long term? I don't know. I don't think it is. You know why? For the reason is that the reason Dean Ambrose was so hot was there's a possibility that he's finally going to get over on the Authority. He's finally going to get over on Seth Rollins. And maybe he might finally get the Money in the Bank briefcase that if he got it would actually be something very credible. That's something that we were kind of hoping for because we don't know what's going to happen with Brock Lesnar. But we're not getting that. Unless they're going to drop this now and nothing's going to happen between Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt, which I think would be stupid. Something has to happen. So that means he's no longer going to be focusing on Seth Rollins. What is Seth Rollins going to do? What is the Authority going to do now? Because if Dean Ambrose is not dealing with them directly, that means John Cena is going to be dealing with Seth Rollins and the Authority, which we've already seen and we're not going to care about. I'm sorry, we're not. So if I got to say this honestly, this is a what the fuck moment. Or I'm just going to say what the hell in my title. We don't know what's about to happen this Raw. It's going to be coming up in a couple hours. But the problem here is this a long-term gain for the WWE? Or is this a short-term gain? I really believe it's a short-term gain because they really don't know what they're going to be doing next week or the week after because they have no long-term goal. You don't have your champion Brock Lesnar there. Now you have John Cena being in the main title scene again, getting this shot, which makes no sense. And not many people want to see him get this shot again. You're not going to have Dean Ambrose dealing with Seth Rollins, who has the Money in the Bank briefcase. You haven't set anything up for Randy Orton to be dealing with a Seth Rollins, unless you're just going to do it, which makes no sense because Seth Rollins did not come to the ring and bother Randy Orton, and Randy Orton didn't bother Seth Rollins during his match. So this really makes no sense. But was it a good shock value? It was. People probably enjoyed it a lot. And that's how I'm going to go with it. It was a mediocre show from the beginning to the middle with a few spots that I did like. At the end, you got a big question mark of what they're going to do and will this actually work? Because it looks like it's a short-term gain with no long-term benefit. So I hope you enjoyed the Zane View. Please give me a comment below. Tell me what you think and feel about this Hell in a Cell. Like I said, it was a mediocre or just a passable pay-per-view with a couple of good spots and a big question mark at the end. I hope you enjoyed this. Have a good day and have a good night. Peace out.